Welcome back to Beyond the Buckets. I'm happy to have living legend, Doc Scheppler. Welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
Well, truly an honor, and I like to make sure I give the flowers where they're still needed. And before we start, I just want to say appreciate everything that you've done for the game, specifically the girls' game in the Bay Area. You've done a phenomenal job of not only just teaching your own team, but also a bunch of different coaches. They've learned so much from you, so I'm excited to have you on the show.
Well, thank you for that compliment. It means a lot. Thank you.
So I usually like to start the show off with a fun fact. So something that most people might not know about you, that might be an interesting fact to share with the listeners.
Wow. Okay. Fun fact. All right. I'm going to share it about my wife. How about that?
I love it.
Okay. My birthday is January 18th, 1954. Her birthday is January 22nd, 1954. We were both born in the same hospital, and we were in the same nursery together for 3 days and met 20 years later.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how did your paths cross? Because ironically, my wife and I were born in the same hospital as well, but we were 4.5 years apart.
Okay. No, just through mutual friend. Her sister's boyfriend played tennis. I was playing tennis with him, and the rest is history.
So you guys are going on 40 years of marriage then, huh? Coming up in a few years?
We would talk, we were married August 13th, 1977, so we've been married, 41 years.
Wow, unbelievable. And that still gives people like me hope that you can stay married for so long.
What's that? 44? It's been 44 years. My math is horrible. I was wondering, we have a 41-year-old daughter, and going like, was this a shotgun? No. So 77, 2021, 44 years.
Wow, unbelievable. That definitely is a fun fact. So thank you for sharing. And hats off to your wife for getting you set up with the technological difficulties we had prior to jumping on.
Yeah, well, she's the technological wizard of the house.
For sure. Well, jumping into a little bit about your background and career. Talk to me about, just maybe a 2-3 minute backstory on who you are, where you grew up, and kind of what led you to coaching.
That's a great question. In high school, I went to Burlingame High School. I graduated in 1972. I played basketball and baseball there. I went on to Kenyatta College, played basketball and golf at Kenyatta College. I went to Davis, decided to retire from basketball there, which was a definite mistake. Took up tennis for a year to be a tennis player, transferred to San Francisco State, played on the tennis team there, majored in physical education, got my degree, credential, and master's degree from San Francisco State. Started coaching at Burlingame High School JV boys in 1977 through 85. I went to Capuchino High School, which is a school in San Bruno, Mildred, and coached there for 4 years, varsity for 3. I went back to Burlingame High School and coached varsity boys for 4. Stopped coaching for a year to watch my daughter play basketball as a freshman at Sacred Heart Prep in 1995. Got the job at Pinewood School in 96, and I've been there ever since, teaching PE and coaching girls basketball. How's that?
Wow, that's a great rundown in a 2-minute span. I really enjoyed that. But talk to me about early on coaching boys. We had similar paths where I used to coach boys my first 9 years. I believe we just talked about that over the weekend. So tell me about how it was early on when you first got your coaching career started.
Well, I loved it. I mean, it was 1977, and they paid probably like $1,100 to coach a sports season, and it's basically, from November to middle of February, and then you had summer league to coach, and It was total profit. I mean, I think coaches now would probably not do that unless they had. See, I was also going to school and working at some athletic clubs to support my wife and I at that particular time, and it was such a joy to coach at that time. It was back in the era of coaching where coaches were respected people of authority, and it's a different time now. But I had a great group of kids. My first year of coaching, our team made the playoffs. We made it to the championship game of our league. Lost to San Mateo. Lost to a guy named Paul Pickett. Have you ever heard of Paul Pickett, Chris? Nah, you're too young. You're too young.
I have not heard of Paul, but as a basketball historian, I feel like I should have.
He played at St. Mary's. He played at St. Mary's in, he's basically probably like 55, 56 now, but he was really a great player at St. Mary's. Well, our team lost the championship game. I thought it was God's gift to coaching. My next year, I get a group of kids. All the sophomores became juniors and on the varsity. No real returners. I have a freshman group that were small, but they made up for it by being really slow. And but they loved the game. That year we went 3-19, but it was by far my favorite year of coaching because they gave me everything they had. You know, we would be down, 29-3 at the end of the first quarter. 49. It was one game was 42-2. So we were kind of like the Bad News Bears. We won 3 games, but those guys didn't like losing, and they fixed it. And we kept the gym open for them. They worked hard on their games. They played a lot of pickup. Next year as sophomores, they went 20-5, won the league. And I was just, in hog heaven. It was just the greatest. And then things happened at Burlingame to where an opportunity came to me at Capuchino High School to coach the JV boys there with the possibility that possibly the varsity opening would be the next year. Took that. And then the following year, after 4 years, I came back to Burlingame to coach the varsity boys there. So I stopped coaching primarily because my joy for the game was still there, but I found joy in coaching my son's 4th and 5th grade team and my daughter's 7th and 8th grade team. I'd go from my high school practice and kind of be cranky, and I go to their practice, and it's a different genre to coach. It's a different, I felt like I had embryos in my hands. So worked a lot on foot skills, ball skills, put it together, and it was a different type of basketball coaching than I had been exposed to as far as you're starting somebody out. What do you do? And I looked at it as a layering effect from 4th to 5th to 6th, and it was so enjoyable to get on the other side of that coaching, and I found particular just self-satisfaction with people that appreciated being coached, and it was just all coaching. There wasn't any discipline problems. There wasn't any high school drama problems. It was just coaching kids, and it proved to be something that was a lot of fun. And it was around that time when I started my own one-on-one basketball business. And we didn't really talk about this when we talked the other day, Chris, but my whole idea was, well, there's golf lessons, there's tennis lessons, there's racquetball lessons. I'm going to teach basketball lessons. Now, keep in mind, everybody, this is 1987. There weren't basketball trainers back then. Nobody gave basketball lessons. I'm not giving myself credit for doing that, but it was my idea that, hey, instead of going to a basketball camp in the summer, come to me. We'll work out twice a week. I'll give you homework. We'll make progressions. And it didn't really fly off the chart, but I kept that going up until now, where I still work individually with players. So that's also part of my story as far as working individually with kids and finding self-satisfaction in the off season of working with different high school, college, some pros as well, age people and getting down to their level and making them get better and finding that connection with them. And I find that particularly fun.
So did you have the foresight? I hear you talk about now a lot of like having this in your bag, and a lot of the kids talk about that too, similar to like a golf club you have mentioned on other things, where I can pull this out when this situation is called for. If I'm in the sand, I can use my pitching wedge. If I see a body in front, I have multiple moves. If I'm going to continue my dribble through, or I'm going to stop and maybe do a Barkley move or a floater or a runner. Did you have that in your mind back then when you originally started out your training business?
I think coaching basketball players, I treat them like gymnasts, ice skaters, dancers, where you have to have them master their foot skills, their ball skills, put them together and equip them with those moves. And then the final piece of the puzzle is the sight skills, is doing the right one at the right time based on the scenario. So, yeah, we work on a lot of different things in that regard. But the thing that I really can't do for somebody when I do an individual lesson is, especially now in my advancing age, is give them the reads they need to do. We can only talk about it, and I can only go through it in guided situations where this is what you do on a closeout. If I'm here and you have space, you shoot it. You plan to shoot it, you react to drive. If you have space where it's being taken up with somebody with closing out, you're going to split your feet and you're going to attack that closeout. So everything that I do in terms of shots, finishes, things, they're all layered to the point where it's their job to play a lot of one-on-one, two-on-two, to learn to do the right thing at the right time. And that's when I design a practice with my team, so much of it is just read and react and have them develop their decision-making skills, starting with one-on-one. And I base that on my development as a player. I tell this story all the time, people. I had the key to the gym when I was a senior, going to be a freshman in college at Burlingame High School. I was the gym monitor, and I thought I was the greatest thing ever because they're paying me $1.65 an hour to go play basketball for 3 hours. I thought I was a pro, It's like, but when I got there, nobody was in the gym. The janitor would open the gym for me. I'd be there shooting, and then all of a sudden, Chris would show up, and we would play horse, and we would have fun, and we'd play one-on-one. And then all of a sudden, 2 other people would show up, and we play 2-on-2, and then more people, 3-on-3. And that really has stuck with me in terms of the development of a player. You first have to learn to attack Chris. You first have to play one-on-one. And then after you learn to attack Chris, then you learn to react to a help defender and play with that. And then you've got 3 people on the court, and then 4 people. And then eventually enough people showed up to play 5 full court. So when I design a practice, it's that mindset involved in terms of layering their progression to getting better. They have to first know how to attack their lone defender and what to do against them. And I think so many times trainers, if you will just do that with one person, and they won't kind of explore and tell them, when you're playing with other players, that move really won't work, But anyway, that's kind of a long story made short about, shots in my bag. When I develop a shooter, I want them to have every shot in their bag in terms of threes, in terms of floaters, in terms of finishes at the rim. As you well know, we don't really work on mid-range shots, but if somebody wants to work on it, I'm more than happy to do it. But with my particular team, our mid-range game is our floater game between 8 and 12 feet because it's the same distance shot. And anytime I have discussion with people about that, it's like, well, if you're driving from the 3, a 1 dribble pull-up, you can take 1 dribble and take a long pro hop and get in and shoot a floater. And I want you to envision, Mark Jackson when he played with the Pacers and the Knicks. He had a great floater. He would take that big pro hop and get in there and shoot that floater from 12, 11 feet. And the closer in you get, the higher your percentage is. So in terms of developing a shot in a shooter's bag, Well, it's up to coaches to allow our players the opportunity in practice to master those shots. And that's part of practice planning.
For sure. Speaking of practice, when I used to play, a lot of the coaches that I had would do what was previously quote unquote old school. So it would be a block practice where you're doing your layups, uncontested, things like that. And you just talked about getting your players in situations where they have to make decisions right away.
Right.
At what point did you learn about block practice versus unstructured? Not meaning unstructured, you just throw the balls out, but putting them in structured situations that are unstructured because you don't know what the defense is going to do, and now they have to be able to react to it. So at what point in your career did you start to do that? Because early on in my coaching career, especially when I was coaching boys, it was mostly block practice. You go from this block to this block, jump stops against nobody, pivot passes, and then when they get in the game, you wonder why they turn the basketball over. They have no solutions at the rim. They can't shoot because they haven't done it against defense. So that would be the question. When did you find out about how to do that with your teams?
I just looked at it, Chris, from the standpoint of what I enjoyed as a basketball. I mean, because when you talk about block practice, that's how I was raised to play basketball. The only time we even really played basketball is shell drill or 3-on-2 drill. That was it. That was the only basketball we played up and down the floor. And I love playing pickup. I love playing basketball. And I want my girls and boys to understand we're going to play a lot in practice. So I didn't do it purposely. Like, you know what, they need to play. They need to gradually increase the amount. I just know that they love to play basketball. And so we're going to do 2-on-2 fast break drills, 3-on-3, 4-on-4. We're going to do those drills, and we've done those drills at our practice since I was coaching guys. I designed a practice around what I would enjoy doing at a practice. So it's not defensive slides. It's not taking charges. It's not doing the 3-man animal rebound drill, you know. It'd be playing, you know, and playing in a structured, systemic way that has rules and, you know, I don't know, guidelines and concepts of how we want to play. And that's how I have a practice with my team now. It's the same. I actually should have them play more, believe it or not. So.
Yeah. It was probably about 5 years ago when I just realized like a lot of the stuff that we practice in practice doesn't actually translate into the game. And you told me something probably one of my first few years when we were coaching. And I don't know if you remember this or not, but he was like, design stuff that is going to allow them to flourish in the game. And this was before one of the games that we played. And it just really resonated with me, and to the point where almost at least 50% of our practice time now is playing. And, you know, hopefully over the years I've been able to develop, and a big part of that was watching, you know, what you guys do in your warm-ups and things like that, and then tailoring it to what suits me and my coaching style. So when you were, you know, early on in your coaching career, were there any coaches that you kind of looked up to and said, hey, I kind of like some of the things that they're doing. Maybe I can implement it in my own way for my program?
Right. Well, we all cheat off each other. We all learn off each other and watch, you know, sets, actions, triggers, however you want to put it. What would work?
And by the way, I'm still in your little flair play for L. You guys got like at least 4 or 5 good looks off of it, but the Iverson cut to the handoff to the flare, that's a great set. I'm still in it. So if we play you again, you're probably going to see that.
Well, you know what? The thing is, we'll get to that. You know, that play is something we used last year, and I saw the Memphis Grizzlies do it for Ja Morant. I'll send you a video, and I looked at this and I'm going like, wait a minute, that's Tony 5. I'll be darned. And the key to that is to make sure that, okay, when you look at it from the standpoint of when a player is most, it wasn't until, well, first my coaching mentors, I learned so much from my high school coach, my varsity coach, because he was a great tactician, strategist. He's going to have the defense that's going to stop this team. Whatever the strength of that team, we're going to play a defense to take advantage of that. And then my other basketball coach was more about making practice a fun, involved. We're going to have contests. We're going to have fun. And my high school baseball coach, who went on to coach at Cal, had the best practices ever. I mean, and talk about making practices fun for, a baseball team, which is kind of a snooze of a sport. There wasn't 1 minute of 2 hours that I wasn't doing something productive to where I wasn't getting better as a pitcher, or I'm hitting ground balls to the infielders, I'm running the bases, I'm doing lines in the outfield, I'm working on my bunting. And that's where I got my background as a coach. And then as basketball was, I loved a lot of motion stuff. But then it wasn't until 1987, Rick Pitino, Delray Brooks, Billy Donovan made it to the Final Four, and I'm going like, well, son of a gun, that's how my team is going to play. We're gonna open the space up. I don't have a lot of size. 3-point line just came to vogue, and Pitino's team was the first team to really utilize the three as a primary weapon. And it was back then that was going to be my team's style of play. We're going to shoot threes, and we're going to spread the floor. And as the years have gone on, I coached one of my boys' teams, had 3 great drivers, 3 great shooters, and our post player was 6'1", and we ran 3 out, 2 in with a high post. And when we got a lead, we ran 4 corners because there wasn't a shot clock. And our offense was so much better in 4 corners because our post player who couldn't get a shot up against a taller player had space to move. That somebody drove for him, and they got him the ball as they were cutting the baseline, kind of like Draymond Hicks, his post players diving to the rim like that. That's kind of what we did. And as the years went on, when I coached girls, and we would play lots of one-on-one, it finally got to the point where I noticed that, man, the offensive player scores 90% of the time in a closeout as compared to starting with a live dribble and triple threat or a live dribble with a dribble move. And it was like, oh my God, then everything I design, every set we run is to get a layup or get somebody in a closeout. And the set you're talking about is exactly that. We're getting our best player in a closeout, right? And if she can shoot, and she's got a closeout, and she's got a nice read of that closeout, well, then we're going to get deep into the heart of the defense with her drive. And the way she finishes, which is phenomenal for somebody at our level, we're going to score a lot. And that's how my whole offensive philosophy has kind of evolved in that. And as time's gone on, when we started shooting our threes and developing shooters in the late 1990s, early 2000s, teams wouldn't help on drives anymore. But we had a hard time finishing. So we got to work on finishes. We got to work on inside hand. We want to work on rondos, wrong foots, over the top of the help, spin layups, 2-foot layups, different varieties of finishes that the kids have to learn to do the right one at the right time based on their defense. And as time has gone on, people will help, but only help from the weak side. And we had to work a lot on the Luka Doncic pass, the opposite pass. So our offense has evolved according to how teams have played us, and also developing our ability to read and react. Now, with COVID last year, we lost so much time because the kids couldn't play basketball, right? It's like, okay, we can do our skill work, and we can do a Zoom work, and they can do ones, but we only got 4 to basket, so they couldn't play. So our job as coaches was made that much more difficult because we couldn't give them what they really need, especially as they get to high schools. They need to play a lot, and they couldn't play a lot. So
And when you're talking about, I call them solutions at the rim. You got to have a solution. If there's going to be a body in front of you, if you're ahead, you can go 1 foot, 1 hand. If they're in front of you, maybe you go with your rondo,
Right.
which is basically an up and under. But are you doing
Right.
this again? Are you doing this block practice to teach it at first, and then are you
Yes.
putting them in a live situation?
Yeah, our progression is, and I learned this from watching clinics in the last couple of years and other coaches as well, learning from other coaches, is that just doing it 1-on-0 or doing it with a coach with a pad is not good enough. You got to do it against a live person, but you have to have the advantage first of all. So we do a lot of advantage one-on-one finish drills. For instance, if you're my partner, your back is turned to me, right next to me, and my ball is on your back, and I can drive either way, and you have to recover and contest my shot. Or I have a live dribble, you're to the side of me, and I finish that way. Or I just make it a guided thing. All right, now you're going to attack a hockey stop closeout or a fly-at closeout. And I want the defender to recover back. So that's really helped us in terms of finishing with the defender. But you just can't get away from not playing 1-on-1 and 2-on-2 and having them learn to do the right one at the right time based on that. And so that's our progression in terms of working on, the different types of finishes. But I mean, with practices now, when we've had to play some scrimmages and games after 2 weeks, it's like, most of our off-season work is primarily offensive skill work and shooting development. And then when it comes time to the season, it's like, okay, I got to spend more time on man-to-man defense. So there's only enough time in practice.
For sure. And you touched on it just now, but people that may just watch you or just know of your program, they think it's only about threes and being able to shoot the basketball. But I'm putting on the record that you guys are one of the most fundamentally sound defensive teams that are out there. Everybody's in help. Everybody's in a gap. There's extreme ball pressure on the guards, but you're not going to get beat because everybody is inside the lane and crowding it. So what do you attribute that to? Are you guys, is that a tribute to how good your offense is and your defense has to be a lot better? Or do you spend a lot of time really working on the defensive fundamentals just like you do on the offense?
We, going back to my mentors, the best class I ever took in college was coaching basketball. It's my only A+ I've ever gotten in my life, because I love basketball. And the guy, his name is Lyle Damon, and he coached at San Francisco State. He wasn't an extremely successful coach, but he could teach defense, and everything was outline form. And you would show up to class and you had to memorize every responsibility you had in on-ball defense. You had to memorize every responsibility you had in one-pass denial, every responsibility in two-pass help. And you'd have to come to class, and I just put it this way: when, what, how, why. When they shoot, what do? You get a hand in their face. Why do you do that? Well, you have a responsibility to lower their percentage. Your job isn't to block their shot. You get a hand up, you check off, and you search for the ball. So these are habits and reactions that you develop just like hitting a ball and running to first. So when they pass the ball, what do? Jump off the ball. How do you do it? You hip turn and run. Get into a stop stance, and then why do you do it that way? Because the faster you can get to that one pass away help, the better you are to help your defender and take away the give and go cut. So everything we do teach defense is all in outline layered form. On ball, one pass away, two passes away. And they have responsibilities like if Chris drives, I got to cut off the drive. All right? My job is to make you get into a dead dribble. And if I get you in a dead dribble, then my eyes go to the ball, my hands go to the ball, I try and get a deflection. What do the people one pass away do? Well, they run and hug their person they're guarding. what do the people 2 passes away do? Well, they'll deny their girl the ball if they get into an area where they're 1 pass away, but they're there to help somebody if they get back cut. So everything we want them to do is based on those principles, and then the rest is just defending every type of situation you want them to defend. Down screen, ball screen, back screen, flare screen, flex cut screen, UCLA screen, how to defend a shooter in terms of setting a ball screen, and all those situations, how to defend a dribble handoff. So we do it in a specific way, and it's funny that one of our former players was practicing with us today, Annika Decker. You know Annika. She was practicing with us today just to get a workout. And I asked her about her defense. I said, what defense? Oh, we play much different defense than we do at Pinewood. I said, okay. So you're 1 pass away, you deny, right? You don't help on the strong side, right? Okay. So, all right, that's the only difference. You still have to, how about when you jump off the ball? Well, the coaches want us to slide to cut somebody off. I go, okay, that's all right. I teach a turn and run or a hip turn and run, like a defensive back guards a wide receiver. I don't teach defensive sliding unless you're guarding somebody that's taking a dribble that's slow. So everything is turn and run. And I got that because when I was in junior college, I had to guard a guy that was a great athlete. And my coach said, Doc, you can't cross your feet. And I go like, well, Greg is faster than I am. I can't slide my feet and stay in front of him. If I turn and run, I stay in front of him. And then he would look at me and say, yeah, but you crossed your feet. If you cross your feet, you're screwed. And I didn't have an answer for that until having researched hip turns, and Lee Taft, a sports speed specialist 15 years ago, is when you have a foot that's across, in other words, you're crossing your feet, you just flip your hips and turn your hips. And like a defensive back would. Defensive backs guarding a wide receiver do not slide to stay in front of the wide receiver. When they do, right, they have to hip turn to stay in front. Well, when somebody's driving by me, I see so many kids slide, do that step slide, and even at the highest level, the Warriors, it drives me nuts when it's like you take a soft slide and then you're just chasing after the guy, right? So in terms of Annika, that's what we do different, and her coach wants her to slide, and I go, no, turn and run, stay in front. So there are different techniques and different mindsets in terms of teaching man-to-man defense. And bottom line is, with my girls, when they go to college, I want their coach to know that she's been coached, that they know how to play defense. They'll play hard. They know how to, they can make good decisions with the ball, without the ball. There's somebody that's fun to play with, right? Somebody that's fun to play with. And having played a lot, Chris, within 2 minutes of playing with somebody, there's my fingers, whether this guy's got a clue how to play, right? Maybe less. And you just, when somebody doesn't know how to play, you go like, oh my, who coached you? And when people come back, whether there be a guy player, one of my male players was saying to me, he's playing intramurals at Santa Clara years ago, and he says, Doc, I don't even know why I was jumping off the ball. I didn't even know why I was calling the screen and hedging and recovering back. I didn't know why I was helping the helper. I didn't know why I was making a decision, whether I strip, whether I take a charge, whether I be solid, or whether I go for a block when I'm helping from the weak side. It's like, well, Chris, well, John, that's probably the greatest compliment you can give a coach, because it's in you as a player. It's in you, like hitting the ball and running the first. Or runner, I'm a runner at first, there's 2 outs. I know when I go when it's hit. I have all these reactions stored up in my computer, in my brain, that you want your players to have as a player. That's our job as coaches. We owe that to them.
Right. So tell me about, transitioning from coaching boys, and in '96 you go to Pinewood, and you get the opportunity. How did that come about, and what was it like in the early days? Because people look at it now, and I believe you have 6 state titles, multiple state finals appearances as well, and so they look at that and think it was probably easy, but I think it was a much different story, and I'm interested to hear your take on how it first went when you got there in '96.
Yeah, well, when it helped to have my daughter transfer over. She was at Sacred Heart her freshman year, and a coaching job opened up at Pinewood, and it just made sense that my daughter come over and play for me. There was an incoming freshman at Pinewood named Lauren Smith, who eventually played at USC, and we started our program with them. We had a great year that year, and we had a couple more players join our program the following year, and it grew and grew. And I don't know how long I was actually planning on coaching for, but I've been there ever since. So a gentleman that I coached in high school in '78 on that 3-19 team, his name is Peter Diepenbrock, who is a very respected former coach at Palo Alto High School. He coached Jeremy Lin. He won a state title with Jeremy Lin in 2006. And he was the boys coach, PE teacher at Pinewood prior to me. So it was him that got me the job, because he was going to take a job as a coach in Denmark for a second time. It turned out it didn't work out very well. He came back. I had his job. They weren't going to hire him as the boys coach. He got a PE job at Palo Alto and had coached there, and still teaches there, but coached the boys there for a long time. So the building process was there. The difference between coaching boys and girls is like, most boys that are good think they're great, and most girls that are great just think they're good. And I enjoy coaching an athlete, whether it be male or female, that wants to get it. I want to be coached. I want to get it. And they want to be great. And when I have that connection with someone, magic happens. And I've been fortunate through the years at Pinewood to have a majority of our players have a love of the game that matches our coaches and want to be great and want to be in the gym and want to work, are self-motivated. They're going to work on their own. And the thing that's with shooting, I say this to everybody that I work with, and some kids just don't know the answer. I said, well, what's the most important skill in basketball? And a lot of them do this, and they go like, let's see, court vision? Like, no, that's important. Ball handling? No. Defense? No. It's shooting. It's the most important skill. Looking out in my yard here, I spend hours upon hours shooting because I love to shoot. I love the game. Shooters with great form and great work ethic, like Hannah Jump, if you will become a great shooter. They'll become it. So the girls coming into our program, if I can't make them a great shooter, I'm not doing my job. It's my job every single day, not just to be a shooting coach, but to give them the tools necessary mentally as well to have the mindset of a shooter. And consequently, we went 8 of 36 against you guys last week. So you need to fire the shooting coach.
Well, we only made 2 threes, so you're doing a little bit better than us at the 3-point line. But
that's the intensity of that scrimmage was such to where both teams were playing so hard. And like I was telling Elle, you don't shoot well when your anxiety level is above the level that it should be. She's up here, and that's the thing with guys and girls. Most girls in pressure situation don't want to embarrass themselves, and they get all nervous and stuff like that. Guys, hey, I didn't get nervous. Hey, these people came to watch me play, right? Oh, God's gift to basketball right here, Whereas girls don't want to embarrass themselves, or they go on the other side of it, where they get really frazzled. And that's a part of coaching that gender, is making sure that, sometimes before big games, I have to be Mr. Rogers, or, hey, got a big game today. We're playing for a state championship. Let's just go out, have fun. We've earned the right to be confident. We're prepared to be our best. Let's go out there and have fun. And bring them down. They're actually going to be way up there. And I learned that even with boys. When I had a team of varsity boys at Capuchino, my first trip back to Burlingame, we're playing against guys that I coached. It's a packed gym on a Friday night. I gave them the Newt Rockney speech, We're going to go out there and kick their butt. We're playing harder than them. We're better than them. And my guys couldn't hit a shot because they were so jacked up to play and win for their coach that it was already a stressful environment. I took them from being between 5 and 8, I took them to a 95, and they were just like, everything was so out of control. And so when I developed the shooters, like we talked about there, is you have to have a mindset of a shooter. I know it's going in, rather than I hope it's going in. I got to know it's going in. And one of the things I haven't solved yet is how to transfer their drill shooting into more successful game shooting. So one of my shooting coach friends says it's usually a 2-to-1 ratio. In other words, let's say Chris shoots 80% in drills in practice, getting a shot every 3 seconds. You can make 80% in practice. Well, you'll be a 40% drill shooter. Well, I found that, kind of be somewhat accurate to a certain extent, but by the same token, I'm going to brag about myself. We didn't have the 3-point line, and in junior college, I shot 50%, and I hit a lot of layups. It was all outside shots, and I shot 50%. And I couldn't even sniff how good a shooter I was then as compared to my girls now, compared to Hannah Jump and Courtney and Annika and Una and my players now. I couldn't shoot with them back then because they put up phenomenal numbers in our shooting drills. My task with them is to try and come up with everything I can to get them to be able to shoot well in games and come up with scenarios in practice that aren't just, you have to shoot with a closeout defender. You have to shoot on the move. You have to shoot while you're tired. You have to shoot in sporadic distances. In other words, you shoot from one spot, you shoot from another. You shoot from NBA 3, you shoot from high school 3. And you move around so it's more sporadic and less block in terms of same shot, same spot. But they still need that same shot, same spot, because that's how you get confidence and you start believing that you're great. So it's definitely a fine line. Sorry to go off on a tangent.
No, I'm here for all that. Tell me a little bit about how you've been able to reinvent yourself after coaching for so long.
I just always have a quest to get better and learn. I love to learn new sets, new plays. When I watch a game on television, I'll see this action and video it and see how I can inject that into my team. And I have a lot of coaching friends as well across the country that will send me set plays that are similar to mine, but they have a counter to them. The problem is it doesn't matter how much I know them or run them. It's getting the kids to run them and get them to buy into correct execution of them. But I think the reason why I can stay so long is I just love the game. I coach with 5 or 6 other coaches that love the game as much as I do, and we have a great group of girls. And when we practice, it's a celebration of the game. It's fun. It should be fun, and that's how the game should be treated. If somebody is watching our practice from above, I want them to look down on our team and go like, that's how you're supposed to play basketball. That's how you're supposed to do it. And that drives me as well, is to embody the spirit of playing this, a great sport like basketball. So that's how I stay that way.
I've had the pleasure of having Kevin Kiernan on this podcast, Craig Campbell, along with Sue Phillips, all of which are in the 600 plus wins club. You are in the I think you got 774. You're coming up on 700 here. Is there any time for you to sit back and kind of look back and say, man, we've had a great career? Or is it always foot on the gas, always to the next one, and whenever your career is over, that's when you'll look at it?
I'm going to coach as long as my body can say this is great. As long as my mind is great and my body is great, I love it. I mean, what could be better than coaching a sport you love that you've done for 44 years? I mean, there's no stop sign. That's for sure. None at all. I will say this. I think I have that's the funny thing with me. A great article for you to read, Chris, is Brandon Crawford wrote something on the Players Tribune about Buster Posey. And he was so effusive in his praise of Buster in terms of it's all about team. It's all about my teammates. It's not about me. It's not about sizzle. It's not about that. And I really don't coach for numbers at all. I don't even know. I only know because people say you've got 670 whatever. It's like, I do. That's great. Are you counting my guys' wins too? I don't even remember how many wins it is. So that's my girls' wins. So if I was really an egotistical pompous jerk, I'd be like, well, you know what? I have like 352 guys' wins, so that's 1,000. It doesn't enter my mind. I coach for the girls. I'm one that just does this for a reason that is noble in terms of it's their career. I'm there for them to help them along the way. And all of us coaches have egos to a certain extent. But I think the most important thing to remind everybody of is that you do it for them. It's their career. It's their high school experience. You're doing it for them. I'm on their bus. I'm on their Flintstones bus, moving my feet just with them. So that's how I view it.
What are some of the biggest challenges you've had at Pinewood over your tenure?
Good question. Small school. I think anything with coaching and anything in life is profit and cost. The profit of coaching at Pinewood is way up there. The cost is minimal. It's 30 minutes away. It's hard to have a go to a shoot around, then drive back home and drive and stuff like that. And the drive is not easy by any means. Thank God for podcasts like yours, Chris. Keeps me occupied in the car. So, but I would say as I get older, it's harder to be on my feet for a long amount of time. I'm more tired after practice. Having 3 PE classes a day is tiresome in a way. I still maintain a good level of physical conditioning, but I would say the challenges are the fact that it is a small school, and there are positives to that as well, in terms of, you get to know the kids. I know every kid at the school. I taught every kid at the school in PE in 9th and 10th grade, so I get to know them and have a personal relationship. So the challenges at Pinewood are minimal compared to other schools as well. So
yeah. And have you ever entertained coaching at the next level in either the college ranks or the pros? Obviously, a coach of your stature probably gets a lot of opportunities thrown their way because of the success you've had. And so other levels are attracted to bringing in high performers, no matter if you're in business or if you're in tech or if you're a coach or an athlete.
Right.
So have those come your way. And if they have, what is the reason why you've stuck around?
I think, yes, a couple have come my way. There was a time where I wanted to get back to coaching high school boys 10, 11 years ago, because the motivation to go back to coach boys was high, but it had to be a particular, type of school. It had to be at a private school, but it didn't work out. And I ended up not doing it. I had a chance to be an assistant at some places like that. But I know what I do well. I know how to stay in my lane. I learned about the Peter principle in class when I was in college, that we all work up to a position where we're incompetent. I could start and really expand my one-on-one business in terms of just teach basketball to earn a living, but I enjoy the team. I enjoy Pinewood. I have an affinity for the girls I coach. When they come in as a freshman, I look forward to coaching them for 4 years and establish a lifetime relationship with them, and that keeps me coming back. It's just the kids I coach. So yeah, we all know what we do really well, and coaching in college involves another skill set, and it involves the recruiting and the financial and the alumni and travel and this and that and that. And I know what I do really well, and what I do really well is coach a high school team and develop players really well, and that's what I'm going to keep doing. I do it really well. Why do I need to learn another skill that I might not be good at? So I also don't like change. I'm a chicken, so I can say that. Like, I like doing the same thing every day, So that's part of it too, Chris.
For sure. As coaches, sometimes, we put all of this effort towards these goals that you have for your team, and you've achieved so many of those goals, winning state championships. Recently, you guys just won the CCS Open for the first time in the 8-year period that it's been in. That was the first year that I actually started when the CCS Open on the girls' side, and you finally get that elusive CCS Open championship. But there's been a lot of also like deflating losses. Do those still sting you to this day? I mean, you've had some really great wins, but some of those losses are heartbreaking too. What are your thoughts on just the highs and lows of the coaching profession?
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm at that age where the wins are a relief and the losses hurt more. And I've heard other coaches say that, and it's like the joyous wins of we've had in the last 6 or 7 years, not only in the state championship, but getting to the state championship and winning a 3 overtime game over Midi in the NorCal championship. Those are, and winning last year was just as joyous in a tough year. I think the main thing is that goals are great, but it's who we become in pursuit of those goals, right? It's like, who are my girls becoming as humans as a result of the vehicle of basketball? Are they becoming selfless? Are they great learners? Are they hard workers? Do they learn to be resilient? Are they fun to play with? Do they have a firm confidence and a belief in what they're doing? Those are the things I want as our core. I don't want to say culture values, but those are who I want them to be as a result of going after these things. And in the process of that, I mean, if you're just after state championships or league championships or section championships, if that's the goal only, then you're going to be disappointed quite a bit. It stings after the first couple of days, but then, like when the Giants lost this year, in terms of using a baseball analogy, they had such a great year, and it was so so tough for them to lose. But after a while, they look back on it, and they look back on it of the way they did it, the way they did it. And one of the things that's interesting, because I still love baseball. I don't coach it, obviously, but the way the Giants won this year, why did Crawford, Posey, Belt, why did those guys get better? It was coaching. They had great coaches. They hired guys that were outside the box. They hired guys that maybe never were a major league pitcher or hitter or infielder or anything like that, but they were great teachers that used analytics to help their players get better. And it was the coaching and how they were, because they had career years, and there was a reason why. Because they had, a coaching staff that was, never been done before. Never have 13 coaches and 3 hitting coaches and a fielding coach and this coach and that coach. And that's what wins. And I'm hoping that the NBA will start to do something like that instead of just hiring friends of friends and, the good old guy network, if you will. Well, that guy was an assistant with there. And because there are some really bright minds in coaching that, especially at the shooting level, that need to be in the NBA, because even at the NBA level, the coaching of specific skills is not the greatest. That's why these guys have trainers. That's why these guys go outside. So that's my diatribe on that. Sorry to be long-winded.
Yeah, no, I love it. I'd rather have that than anything else. What advice would you give to young coaches trying to make their way in this game of basketball?
Well, back when I started coaching, we didn't have what Al Gore invented, the internet. We didn't have the internet. Now there's so many clinics on there. There's so many great coaches and minds, young minds like your age, like Noah LaRoche and Mark Cassio and Brent Tipton and Alex Sarama, Chris Oliver, Russ McMains. I can think that I've learned so much from, and they've learned from me because they've watched some of my videos and have adapted some of what my theories are in terms of catch and shoot, catch and drive, and our offensive philosophy. And they've put it in such great, detailed, understandable outline form that these guys are absolutely brilliant. So my advice for a young coach is be an active learner, be a lifelong learner. You can never, and that's what really bothers me about coaches now, is that they're putting themselves in a box and they don't want to learn anymore. They just do what they know, and it might be really good, but they don't aspire to get better. If we're asking our players to get better every single day, how can I not ask myself to get better? It's my job to be better for them, or teach something better for them, or get them to a place faster for them to get a concept of that. And that's my quest, is how can I do a drill better, or how can I do this skill developing thing better so they get it faster. I don't have to go through all this for them to get it. And I'm constantly learning. Today I was watching a girl do an overhead pass. 2 girls, as a matter of fact. And they were throwing the ball like this. And for the life of me, for a couple of, I looked at them and go like, that's not right. So I started to do it myself, and I go like, you got it all wrong. You don't snap your wrist like you shoot a ball. You twist your wrist like that when you throw it. And it was like, wow, I just learned how to teach this better. Nobody ever taught me to do it. I just naturally did it. Did you have to teach your guys how to make an overhead pass?
Never.
No. Were you taught to make an overhead pass?
Never.
Never. You figure it out, right? You just figure it out.
Yeah.
And it's like you just do it. But that's the joy I had when I coached these little kids teams, where I had to actually teach them how to do stuff that I had normally assumed that people could do. As far as a balanced stop and an explosive start. and how to cut. You know, one of the funny things I went to Taiwan with Jeremy Lin to work two of his camps in Taiwan and China. And the structure of the camp was 12 hours a camp. Jeremy would work the first 3 hours, and I would work the afternoon. Also, I worked the morning one too, but he would instruct in the morning. He would instruct the last 3 hours, the first 3 and the last 3. And the middle 6 hours, it was me. And Jeremy's a wonderful guy, a great player, but he doesn't understand progressions in teaching skills. He doesn't understand the progressions of teaching a cut first before you teach him a crossover drill, teaching him this and that. So between those 6 hours, I taught them how to cut. I taught them how to split stop. I taught them how to reverse pivot. I taught them how to do all this stuff. And when he came back, he said, "Are they warmed up?" I said, "No, they know how to warm up. Here, why don't you just take them through that? They know how to do this, this, and this." And after 10 minutes, he looked at me and he said, "What did you do with them?" I got, "Well, I taught them how to cut. I taught them how to split stop. I taught them how to between the legs dribble with the split stop." He says, "This is unbelievable." I said, "Well, that's why you're paying me big bucks, you know, to come here to help you teach. But there's a layering effect of everything. And that's what I find the joy in terms of teaching things in a progressive way. And that's what I would tell coaches is internet, watch great coaches coach, be a lifelong learner, explain, demonstrate, give feedback. That would be my advice.
Wow. Love that. Talk about just a little bit about how having a balance of your marriage, family life, and still being able to devote so much time into coaching other kids.
Yeah. It is a different generation of coaches too, Chris. My wife is the greatest, and my kids understand that if I have a practice, our birthday party is going to be at 7 that night, you know, after practice. You know, if we don't go on vacations during basketball season, we don't really go on vacations a lot to begin with, but I'm completely committed to my team, and they know that. And sometimes I bring the games home, which I try not to do. The joke in my house is 2:30 at night. My wife wakes up. Oh, well, it's basketball season. Yep, it is. I'm telling you. So it's something that they know that I love what I'm doing, and they respect that. And I've learned to balance it pretty well because of great relationships I have with my family and stuff. So I miss my grandkids. I mean, when basketball practice started, I mean, we have practices at night. We don't have it right after school because I want my assistant coaches there. So my wife does daycare for our 8, 7, and 6-year-old grandson and granddaughter, and I miss them. You know, when I get home from school, not basketball season, they're there and go outside and play, and you know, so I miss that part of it. But we all make sacrifices in our life. I mean, all of our assistant coaches have full-time jobs, and when they get there, I want our kids to be grateful that they're giving their heart and soul for them to be great players. And my assistant coaches are the best. I mean, they're really not only great basketball people, but former still great players, I might add. But the other thing too is that our shared love of the game is what keeps us together.
Yeah, for sure. You have a great staff. You guys do a great job together. And like my feeling is just from afar, any weak points, which you don't have many, they're able to fill those gaps very fluidly, and they really make the program well-rounded because yes, you are the director and your vision is completely imprinted on the program, but you also need those supplemental parts to add where you might be lacking, and especially like the social and emotional side. Like for me, I'm not that type of person, but my assistants are really great at that, and they're able to interact with the girls, and they can relay and filter information to me that I might not even be privy to. Like a few years back, I know you used to coach Kiana with AAU, and she just got 1,000 points and 500 rebounds over at Stanislaus. So shout out to Kiana. But and you did a lot of great things with her development as well. But I had no clue that her and one of the other girls on the team, I thought they were best friends, but I found out after they graduated that they were in a fight their whole senior year, and I was wondering why the chemistry was off. But like the assistant coaches take care of so much stuff, and they're extremely valuable to our programs, and I know your assistant coaches are rock solid.
Well, no question about that part of it too, but the joy of having coached a couple of them and have them at a young age, to watch them develop their coaching skills, not only from the standpoint of, in games, but in practices, in individual or in group situations. They've become terrific basketball coaches all around. They're free to go out. They would be a great head coach at any school, but the love we have for basketball and each other and what we have is really special, and that's why they stay. That's why they stay. That's why I hope they continue to stay, because it was just me and another coach today, because a couple of them were away. We had 4 away today, and I felt like naked out there today. It's like, what is going on here? So I miss them. They're a value. When you're breaking up into groups and things like that, I have complete confidence. And when I turn over practice to them, they're in good hands.
For sure. As we start to wrap it up, is there anything that you would like to add to our conversation? It's been fantastic. I've gotten so much knowledge from just this brief hour-long conversation. But anything else that you'd like to tell the listeners?
No, it's just that coaching now is not easy as compared to when I started coaching. And I think I said this to you the other day. I mean, when I first started coaching, we were an authority figure that was respected by the parents as a dual purpose in the development of a child, development of a student, development of a student athlete. And now it's kind of shifted towards being a country club employee. It's like, I'm here to help your daughter become the best she is, but I hold the bottom line with my team, right? I am, in charge of this, and you have to respect that boundary. And a lot of times, the parents are so caught up in where their daughter's going to go to school, get a scholarship, that they get caught in not thinking clearly about their behavior. And I understand that completely. And they lose the ability to think rationally about how they behave, not only at games, but practices, how they behave with their daughter or son in terms of coaching them during the game or coaching them in the car and stuff. And it's like, my parents were just happy I was happy out shooting baskets by myself. They're happy that I was on a team. They might have disagreed with what the coach said and how they did things, but the bottom line was, he's the coach, she's the coach. You listen to the coach. You figure out what the coach wants and you do it. And I think that has evolved in recent years to become a little bit out of control. So that's one of the costs of coaching, is dealing with that. As you young coaches know, I mean, back when I started coaching, I mean, I never had a parent problem. It was like, Doc's the greatest coach ever. And I wasn't the greatest coach. I sucked compared to who I am now. I sucked. If I was great then I'm God's gift to coaching now. That's far from the truth. But that's the thing. I never had a parent problem back then. And in recent years, in 4 to 5 years, there have been issues where it's like, well, I know more than I did back then. I'm much better. I handle players much better. And we win. What's the problem? So that would be the last thing I want to say. So
Yeah, it's the parent thing is interesting, and like you said, you understand because all parents want is the best for their child, but at the
Yep.
same time, a lot of parents have missed the boat on fighting through adversity to get to what you ultimately want to get to. You know,
Right.
it's only a small moment in time where they might be feeling this, and
Right.
that's been the difficult part. And what I've tried to do with any type of parent issues is meet the parents where they are in that moment and help them get through that particular time. And so if that means you listen or don't listen at all, like just cut it off, you just have to go with your heart. But you're right, it's a difficult thing to do. And if you're able to partnership with the parents and the kids, and everybody in the program, I think it works out a lot better. I've been lucky during my time to have pretty great parents at Valley
Yeah.
Christian, but that doesn't mean to say that we haven't had any issues. I think every
Sure.
coach is going to have some
Everybody, yeah.
issues.
Right.
Even top level programs go through the same thing, and so nobody's immune to it. But first of all, you have to have some core values set in place that you have some non-negotiables. One of
Right.
our non-negotiables is we're not talking about playing time with parents at all.
Right.
Your daughters need to bring that up with the coaching staff, and if you want to be present in the meeting, we have no problems with that happening. But we're not going to sit here and go back and forth. Oh, my daughter should be playing. Your daughter knows if she should be playing or not, and if she does feel like she should, then she needs to address that first and foremost.
Yeah, and to make them grow as a player, you find out what you need to do and you fix it, right? One of the things, this is the last thing I'm going to say, is back in 2000, I was at a camp where Mike Montgomery was there, and I asked him, I said, Mike, do you ever have parent problems at Stanford? He says, no. So a couple of times parents will call about playing time and stuff, and I just stop them right there. I just say, you know what? There's a biological tie between your son and you. Me, I'm objective about it. You love your kid. I like your kid, but I'm the coach. You can't be objective about rating his ability. You're not at practice every day, so we're not even going to have this conversation because we're not on equal grounds. It's a biological tie you have to your son. And that's so true. You can't be objective in terms of discussing that because they're biased. It's their kid. Of course they're going to think they're God's gift.
No doubt. All right, as we wrap it up,
All
where can everybody follow you? I don't think you're on social media that much, but that maybe they can follow your program or reach out. How would they do that?
Sure. Pinewood Basketball. Miranda handles our Twitter account, Pinewood Basketball, Pinewood Girls Basketball in there. Fever Basketball's on Facebook. I don't think we have a Pinewood Basketball on Facebook. I don't have a YouTube channel, but you can Google my name. I've done some videos and things like that and other podcasts as well if they want to hear me say the exact same things I said to you today. So,
good deal. Last question. If there should be somebody on the show, who would it be? And you have to make the connection. Another coach, maybe.
I would say San Ramon Valley coach John Cristiano.
Okay.
Public school out in, Danville. Their team, when he started coaching there, they were 5-22, and now they're, in the top 10 of the Bay Area at a public school. He does it right. I mean, their girls are year-round workers on their games, and they well coached. They're great girls too, just great girls. So I would say him.
Good deal. Well, you're going to have to make that connection. Doc, I appreciate you.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Great talking to you.
Good deal. Thank you very much.